Hey everyone, Sophia here from My Great Challenge. Welcome back to another episode of Anyone Can Quilt. Yes, anyone can quilt. And today we are going to do our first quilting. So if you remember from last week, we finished this particular block here that's in the center. And then I said we were going to finish it and do an actual mat out of it. So what we're going to do today is do the border. So I'm going to show you how to do this border all around. You see how it shows the same color here, and then I'm going to show you how to quilt it, because this is actually quilted, you guys. See, you can see that in the back. Okay, so that's all we're doing today. We're doing the border and the quilting. Next week we'll do the actual binding, because I can't do all of that in one video. That would be too much. So yeah, get ready, turn your machine on. We're going to quilt today. Right, so let's start with the block that we made last week. If you remember, we made this block, well, at least I did, I don't know if you did, entirely with flying geese. So what we're gonna do today is frame it and then quilt it, and we'll do one single mat that's quilted. So usually when you do the framing or the sashing for your quilting or the borders that you want for your block, you want a color that kind of goes with the block. Okay, like for instance, if I was picking something that's completely different, okay, I would end up with a border that's red. It's not really a good look. Okay, so what I'm gonna do to keep it kind of like within the same theme, I'm gonna see what it would look like if I was doing it in yellow. So that's what the border would look like, or if I was doing it in the dark green, and that's what it would look like. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna put it over here so we can see what the dark green would look like, and then I'm not gonna do it in gray because the gray is on the outside already, and then the other fabric that I have is this light green. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. I like the yellow, however this is yellow and this is touching, so it's kind of like not really a good idea as a border. This one, same thing, it's touching, so it's not really a good idea as a border either. So what I'm going to do instead is use the green polka dot, because then it ties it in and it brings the whole block together, and then it brings back the ones that are in the middle. So all we're going to do now is basically measure it, see how long of a border I need. So I'm going to take my block right here and take this, and it is 11 and a half. So the first thing I'm going to do is flip my fabric the right way, and I'm going to cut a border that's 2.5 inch wide. I'll probably cut it and trim it to make it less wide. Right now I just removed a little bit that was not squared. Okay, so remember, you want to be squared. So anything that comes out on the sides you want to remove. Okay, so here we go. I'm just gonna cut this, and I'm just gonna do 4 of those. Okay, so here we go. I got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so let's see what it would look like. So here's my block, and the first border is gonna go here. Second one is gonna go here. Third is gonna go this way, and the fourth one this way. Okay, so that's how we're gonna frame it. All right, so this is how you do it. You pick the opposite sides first, and then you do the other 2. But we're not going to do metered corners or anything. We'll learn about that when we do the binding. What you want to do basically is that you're going to align this here, and you're going to sew it on this side, right? And then it will be cut right here. And then this one will be the same thing. You sew it here, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, and you're going to cut it right here. So let me fold it so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so you want to sew it so that it ends here at this edge, and same thing here. Now this block doesn't have any direction, so it doesn't matter which way we do it. Okay, so this is going to be right here on the edge, and then the last ones, when you're going to do these 2 sides here, these are actually going to be from here, from this edge here to this one here. Okay, so you're basically gonna have 2 short and too long. So we do exactly the same thing. I'm gonna cut this a little bit shorter because it's way too long. Let me give it about 1/4 of an inch on both sides. Okay, so you do the same thing then if you were doing regular blocks. You're gonna put this right here along the edges, okay, and you're going to sew at 1/4 of an inch mark from the edges, okay, and then we'll flip it over. All right, so I'm doing it a little bit longer just to give the fabric a little bit of movement, because sometimes what happens is that you do it a little bit too tight and then you end up missing 1/8 of an inch. So when you do the next one on the side, they ended up being crooked or you're missing a corner. So that's the reason why I'm overlapping a little bit. And again, if you're concerned that your fabric is going to move, you just go ahead and pin it. So now we don't have to worry about matching any kind of seam because this is a straight fabric. It doesn't have any seam. Okay, let's go to the machine. So I've had some questions and requests to show you a little bit more of the machine and how I do the settings on this. Okay, so this is a Brother. Again, this is the HC 1850. There's a link down below in the info box about my unboxing, and then the links to get the machine too if you want. But basically what you do is that you choose which stitch you want. Okay, so on this machine, 00 is the needle is on the left of the foot, and 01 the needle is right in the middle. So I'm going at 01, and then over here that's the stitch length, and I'm picking 2.5. Okay, when you do the actual quilting with the batting and everything, you want to do a 3.5 because the longer stitches. You don't have to worry about the height of the stitch because we're not doing a zigzag. All right, so we are 2.5 and we are at 1 right here. This is the speed. I'm just going to go on a medium speed. I'm just going to do a quick little introduction to sewing with a machine for those of you who don't know. If you know about it, you know, I'm sorry. But basically there's 2 threads. There's a thread at the bottom, it's called the bobbin, and then there's a thread on the top that goes through your needle right here. And what happens is that the 2 of them meet, knot, and then go up, meet again, knot, and then go up, and that's how you end up doing the stitching and joining 2 fabrics. Okay, so again here we want to do this at 1/4 of an inch seam, and just as I showed you last week, this particular foot right here, there's a notch right here in the middle. This is where the middle of the foot is, and then from here to here is 1/4 of an inch seam. Okay, so what you want to do again is that you're going to align your fabric right here to the edges, and you drop your foot like this. I'm going to take this pin because I'm holding it with my fingers right now, so I don't need it. You're going to lower your needle, and this one we're going to do because this is the border and we want it to really stay. We're going to do a couple of stitch backward. And then we're going to move forward again. And again, what you do is that you follow the line right here. Okay, when my fabric is aligned with the foot, okay, I'm looking underneath to make sure that I am still right on with the other, with the block that's underneath. I don't want it to be pulling out because otherwise then the whole thing is going to be askew. Okay, and when you get all the way to the end, you're going to do the same thing you did at the beginning. You're going to do a little bit of reverse stitches and back forward. And the reason you do that is to lock your stitch in place and make sure it doesn't unravel. All right, so you can see right here that I have my seam at 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to flip this over. And this is basically what it looks like. Now notice that the points are stopping exactly on it. I didn't chew over them. Okay, and that's because the seam all around is at 1/4 of an inch. If your quilt is nice and straight. So what I'm gonna do first is flatten this out, and I'm going to do the seam going towards the outside like this. I'm not gonna bring it back in. I'm gonna make sure it stays that way, so that way my block stays nice and flat. And once that's nicely pressed, I'm just going to snip here and here. All right, so I just pressed it, and I'm just gonna go this way. Now you see how I'm off a little bit here? Okay, guess what I'm going to do? We're gonna take that out. It's not much, but we're just gonna take that out, keep going straight. All right, and we squared this. Okay, and just to make sure it's squared, just go like this. And you align here and here. You see I don't have any fabric coming out, so this is nicely squared. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. This one I believe is a little bit better. Matter of fact, we're just gonna do it this way so we can square it nicely. There we go. All right, so let me do the exact same thing on the opposite side, and then we'll do the rest. Okay, so here we are. I did both sides, and they are pressed, and I squared them off. So now what you want to do is the exact same process. You take your one band, you put it this way, and you're going to align it to your edges, and you're going to sew it at 1/4 of an inch mark, and then you'll flip it over. The only difference this time around is that this is going to go all the way over this way. Okay, so you have 2 short again and 2 long ones. Let me finish this and I'll be right back. All right, it's done. So now we're going to square it off. You can buy very large squares. There are pretty much grids like this from the same brand, actually, from OmniGrid, and they would be 12 inches, 11 inches, you know, square. And they are perfect because you just put them over your block. You count exactly where the middle is, and you just snip all around. I don't have that, so we're gonna have to figure out a better way to square it off. So I know that I am straight here. And what I'm going to do is follow the line here and there. I'm going to match this one right here and the one over there. And I'm going to square that off. Oops. Okay. So I want something that's nice and straight. And I can see that this is 1 inch and 1/4. So then I'm gonna turn it around this way. Stay nicely straight here, and I'm gonna do 1 inch and 1/4 over here. All right, I'm gonna bring this to the line. Hold on. Okay, and I know I have to have 1 inch and 1/4 from here to there, and I need to be straight on the line here and there. Okay, so I'm looking at the line that's right here. I'm following the line from the edges of my border, and then over here I'm following this line and the line here that's on my mat, so that way I can have a straight line. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that this way. Same thing. I'm going to align myself on the edges of the line here. I'm going to bring this over here, and this is squared off. Alright, so just in case you're not sure, basically you put it like this. It's lined up here, and it's lined up here. Move it a little bit here. It's lined up here, and I am lined up here. It's nicely squared off. So you can also go like this with your grid, and you align it here and make sure there's no fabric coming out here, and you can do the same thing here. I'm nicely squared off here as well. Let's try this one. It's perfectly lined up here, and I'm lined up here. Nothing's coming off. And yep, all squared off. So what are we going to do now? We're going to do the quilting, and that's the exciting part. So for the quilting part, we're going to do a back, and the back we're going to do it in yellow. Okay, so hopefully I only have one yellow left. So, and I'm fitting just right. Woof, I almost did not make it. So I'm going to bring my fabric here to the corners. I'm just going to do it at the end here. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut exactly the same size in yellow. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. So don't go cut your green, okay? Don't go cut your border. You want to make sure you get a piece that's basically the exact same size. All right, now if your square was exactly 12 by 12, you would cut a piece that's 12 by 12, but I don't want to be bothered with calculating what my square is. I'm just going to go like this, because what I want is a piece of fabric that fits perfectly on the back. Okay, and there we go. All right, so I have a front and I have a back. All right, so let me press this together, and then you do basically the exact same thing by getting a piece of batting, and the piece of batting, you just cut it the exact same size, and you're going to create a sandwich where the batting is going to be in the middle, and then the top part this way and the bottom that way. So let me press this, get a piece of batting, and I'll be right back. Okay, done. And this is an all cotton batting. Okay, it's cheap actually. Got it at Michael's, no big deal. All right, so I want to put my fabrics again. Just gonna pick the yellow one. And I'm gonna cut this to follow the yellow, so I'm trimming it. Okay, so now we're going to create a sandwich, right? So to do a sandwich, you basically put your back with the good side under, all right? And then you're going to put your sandwich of the filler basically right here. And then you top it with your quilt top. Okay, so don't worry if it's poking out here and there, that's all right, because that's going to get slightly retrimmed at a little time. And then what we're going to do is put a binding. So let me press these three pieces together, and then we're going to talk about quilting. All right, so I pressed the whole thing, and the great thing about pressing is that it actually kind of fuses a little bit. Temporarily, it's really not fused all the way. I can still separate them if I wanted to. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take pins. There are safety pins like this, and they are special for quilting. You see how they have a little curb? Okay, and what I'm going to do is basically go in my border right here, and I'm going to pin all three pieces together. And what it does is that it holds the quilt while we're going to actually machine quilt it. So let me flip that around. Okay. And you want to put some in the middle as well. You really never use too many of those pins. You can buy clips too. Some people have quilting clips. They look like big binder clips, and they're great because they really keep the fabric from moving. But this is a small piece. I don't feel like I need to do that, but I'm doing everything I can to make sure the fabric doesn't shift. Alright, so this is what we're gonna do. There's different types of quilting, okay? And the quilting is basically going with your machine over, or you can do it by hand, and you're basically going from one side to the other, and you basically put them together and sew them together. All right. So there's different type of quilting that you can do. You can do what's called stitch in the ditch, where with your quilting foot or your regular walking foot, you're going to stitch right there in the seam. All right. And what happens is that as you follow your pattern, and you can go here or here, you're creating a negative of your design on the back. Okay, so that's really cool if you want to do something with a contrast color. Like if you have a thread that's dark green, for instance, and you were doing the stitch in the ditch, it would look perfect on the back of this. However, if this is your first time, do not do dark color thread. Do as light as you can, because every little mistake is going to show. I would leave the dark threads to the professionals, seriously, including people other than me, because I am not going to use dark thread on this. I'm too afraid I'm going to goof off, and this is a demo, and then that'll be the end of the quilting videos. So you can do stitch in a ditch, where you follow the stitches, and that's with a walking foot. Or you can take your walking foot, and I'll show you what it is when we get to the machine. Actually, that's a walking foot, okay? Or you can take your walking foot and you go outside of the seam, and you basically repeat the pattern like this, but you go outside and you just do basically straight line, okay? This block is small enough that you can get away with just doing one line. Some people would do two. Some people would actually fill out all the lines, the entire triangle, with lines this way. You can do lines this way if you want, and then they would do lines this way here, and then they do some here. Okay, that's if you want to quilt the design. The other type of quilting you can do on this is that you can just take your quilting foot, not a walking foot, and that would be a foot that looks like this, that has a spring, right? It goes up and down, okay? And you just go and do squiggles, or you do little flowers, you do whatever design you want, okay? This is a little bit more complicated, and it takes a lot of dexterity to move your quilt underneath the machine. In particular, if you want specific design, like I've seen some of them that are so intricate, the quilting on the back is actually more beautiful than the design of the blocks themselves, because they do very intricate flowers, and they actually draw things. It's unbelievable what they do. But these are super talented women, unlike me. For this particular block, and because I'm showing you the basics of quilting, we're not going to do this yet. We're going to do the walking foot, and we're just going to go outside of the seams and repeat the pattern, and we're going to do that on all of the colored ones, and then we'll leave the gray alone. So today all we're going to do is quilt. We're not going to do the binding. The binding we'll do next time. So what I'm doing right now is removing the foot that is already in place. This is my regular foot, right? And I'm going to place the walking foot instead. So interestingly enough, this is a Singer and my machine is a Brother, but this one is a universal walking foot. So the difference between a walking foot and a regular foot is that this one has feeding dogs here at the bottom as well. So when you sew on it, you get the feeding dogs here at the bottoms that are gripping the fabric from underneath, and this one is gripping the fabric as well. So you end up having two sets of teeth basically grabbing your fabric, and it makes it easier for thick fabric to go through. So you see how there's an arm here with the two little, with the hook. You're gonna put that on the needle shank right here. Okay, so what's gonna happen is that as this part here goes down, it's gonna help move the needle up and down, and it's going to signal to the foot, the walking foot, when to grip the fabric. All right, so it's a mechanism that works together. So I'm just gonna put that back. This is the part that's a little bit difficult to do, because you gotta have, I wish they were doing that on the right side of the machine so you can use your right hand, but if you're left-handed, you probably do that in 10 seconds. Me, a little bit more difficult. Okay, here we go. And the machine comes with a tool like this. You can use a screwdriver, but it comes with a tool that allows you to screw this in. And you want to make it nice and tight. You don't want it loose, because if it's loose, what's going to happen is that with the movement of the machine up and down from the needle, it's going to unscrew it more and more up to the point where it's going to be not working at all, and then you break your needle. Okay, so so you see how the needle is going up and down, and it's moving this part here, which I've anchored to it. And that basically, each time it goes like this, it makes the feet on the top move. Okay, so let's lift this. I'm gonna bring it in. Okay. All right, so I'm doing a little bit under 1/4 of an inch from the edges, and you remember I am sewing a line that's going to go basically inside the triangle, and it's going to repeat the triangle. Now, and what I'm doing here is that I'm just following, and I'm trying to not move away too much, because I want to have a straight line. Okay, and I'm going to stop right here. All right, not at the point, a little bit before the point. I'm going to move my foot up. I'm going to switch this. You know what? It needs a little bit, but we're going to do it. Now, I need a little bit more stitching. Not by much. We're going to do just one. There we go. Because I want the same equidistance from the other side. There we go. That's good. Okay. All right. And I'm going slow because I don't want to make mistakes. Okay. All right, so I hope you can see what I did here, but you have this line, right, that goes all around, and then when you turn it, it creates a triangle. You see that? So what I'm going to do, before I decide whether or not I want to do another line, I'm going to do the same thing on every single one of the yellow triangles, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing on the green one and then on the light green, and that's basically going to be taking care of the quilting of the most of the centerpiece of this quilt. So let me do that, and then we'll get back to it and see what it looks like. So this is done, and I did stitching on every single triangle, and I'm not going to do anything else because this is pretty much quilted together. So this is the top, and this is what the back looks like. So you see you have a repeat, pretty much a ghost. These are the what do you call it, the pins. So you pretty much have a ghost image of the entire quilt that's in the back. Okay, and all of this stitching is basically keeping those all together. So I really don't need the pins anymore. I'm just going to remove them and I'm going to press this one more time, and then when we come back next week, what we'll do is that I'll show you how to do the binding. So this was easy. It was just following the design. So again, you can stitch in the ditch where you just follow the seam line, or you can just follow the design, and that counts as quilting. Now, if you want to do something very intricate, again, you need to use the quilting foot, and we're going to do that at another time when we do another block. And actually, the next project is probably going to be a table runner as a sew along, okay, or quilt along rather. So let me press this, and then I will be done, and I'll say goodbye. So that's it. That's all it's about when you do quilting. So it's not a big deal and it's not that difficult, okay? You just have to take your time. And again, if you want intricate designs, you know, the circles and the little flowers or whatever, you have to start learning to do free machine quilting using the quilting foot, and that is a little bit more complicated. I am not there yet. I can do squiggles and things like this, but I can't really do designs yet. Hence the reason again why some people just send their quilt down to be done at a long arm quilter. They pay, I think it's 2 cents per square inch. Yeah, 2 cents per square inch depending on who you're going to. But that's it. That's a little mat, and it's actually pretty cute. And you know what I'm going to do with this? Instead of using it as a mat, well, you could use it for whatever you want. You can use it as a mat if you wanted to. But this one I'm actually going to put a bar right here, and I'm going to hang it because it's the same color than my walls here, the gray, and it's gonna look really, really good. So you can use quilt as decorative arts, by the way. You can blocks like this, you can actually frame them if you wanted to, and it would look really, really cool for decorations if you find fabrics that are matching the colors in your house, your color scheme. You can use a quilt block like this and frame it and do a whole series on the wall if you wanted to. So anyway, this was how to quilt the really, really basics, okay? Because I ain't going to some crazy design or anything like this. I just wanted to show you what it takes. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week we are binding, and binding basically means doing another border right here that kind of like completes, it goes from this side in the back to the front, and it just closes off the whole sandwich here and finishes off the edges of your quilt. So that's what we're going to do next time, and that requires attention. So it's all we're gonna do next week is just the binding, and after that we'll do a couple of other blocks and we'll be ready to do a quilt along, and we'll do probably a table runner. Okay, give me a big thumbs up if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe right here in the corner if you are brand new, and comment down below. Let me know if you've started quilting, if you've followed my instructions, how easy were they. I'm very interested in finding out whether or not I'm giving you the right directions, and if you end up goofing off, then it's my problem. I own it. That means I didn't teach you right. Okay, give me a big thumbs up. I'll talk to you later, you guys. Bye. Thanks for watching.